We live in an age saturated with self improvement, monk mode, dopamine detoxes, endless optimization, and paradoxically, it's left many men more restless than refined. Silence now feels suspicious, solitude feels like failure. If you're alone for too long, you assume something is missing. So you distract yourself. Podcasts, work, gym, scrolling, dating apps, anything to avoid the quiet question forming underneath it all. Is my life actually moving forward? The job you once prayed for no longer satisfies you. The routines that were meant to discipline you now feel hollow. The relationship you thought would complete you hasn't arrived, or worse, it has, and it didn't deliver you what you'd hoped. And slowly you begin to feel like you're waiting for life to start. Scripture offers a different interpretation. Not delay, but preparation. David is anointed king and sent back to the fields. Moses is called and hidden in the wilderness. Paul is converted and disappears into obscurity. God seems to do his deepest work in the seasons no one applauds. The danger here isn't loneliness, it's waste. Trading formation for fantasy, wishing for a girlfriend, a platform, a breakthrough, while neglecting the man you're becoming in the meantime. Because seasons of prolonged solitude are rare. They offer something almost impossible later on. Time to build skill, discipline, and depth. Time to become useful to God, to the church, and to a future family. Eventually, life fills up. Marriage, responsibility, provision, and the space you once had disappears. This season will end. It always does. But the question isn't when this season ends. It's whether you'll realize God was shaping you while you were busy waiting for someone else or for something else. That's just, it's so good, man. I think just reading something like that, it puts things into perspective. But I think that's kind of the difficulty of life, right? That life always makes sense looking backwards, but never looking forward, right? The uncertainty we deal with as young men, as people striving for a better future, whatever that means, is that it never makes sense. It never makes sense as we're going through it, but when we look back, it makes so much sense. And all we have, I mean, the closest thing we have to kind of having that full picture view of what our life is going to look like going forward from somebody who's actually walked that is listening to people who have kind of walked in our shoes, right? The older people that look back and they're like, man, you're gonna miss this time you're wasting. You know, we read in the scriptures themselves, right? We read Solomon, who had everything we'd ever wanted. I think that's something we think about, but we never really internalize. We never really take seriously as we should. I think we acknowledge the teaching there, but we never really live it out. When you have somebody like Solomon who had everything like you could ever dream of, right? I mean, flip. You want to be married? That man was super married. You want to be wealthy? He was ultra wealthy. You want wisdom? He had all the wisdom, right? You want status? He had all the status. I mean, you want a great career? I mean, what better thing than being king of Israel and building the temple? Like, the temple broke down and, like, I think it was centuries later they tried to rebuild it, and the people were just like, man, this is never going to be like what Solomon built. I mean, his pools, he had pools like just to wash himself, right? Like just to bath. They're still there. You can still go see them in Israel, by the way, which is crazy, right? They were incredible. He did it all, and he looks back and he's like, meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. Or you got Paul who says, man, I wish you guys were like me, you know, be single and stuff. And I mean, we read that in 1 Corinthians 7 and we're like, I'm good, Paul. You know, I'm good. I don't want that, right? I think that's kind of the difficulty of it. We can get all this advice from people who have walked in our shoes, right? To kind of miss the pitfalls that they went through. But we'll never really listen to it because there's always this thing in us. There's some things we'll take. We'll listen. I'm like, you know, you're right, but I still want to do it myself, right? We'll take these things and we're like, cool, you're right, but we're never really gonna learn it until we go through it ourselves. I remember I was listening to Chris Williamson's podcast, and they were talking about something along these lines where they were saying that some lessons are just best learned when you go through them yourself. Like, you're never going to learn it from somebody telling you, and I think that's kind of the difficult part, right? I mean, just in the essay, this little monologue I kind of put together, there's something it's logical, right? It's like, okay, the time is gonna pass, right? This is a season, right? It says that they in the Bible multiple times, seasons come, they change, they come and they go, whatever that looks like. And it's like, cool, God has clearly put you in this season where, okay, you want to be married, you want to have this and that, etc. But you're not there yet, right? God, for whatever reason, it says not now. And instead of spending this time, you know, building stuff, as we've kind of just spoken about, there's stuff you should be doing now, creating value, like learning how to just become a competent person. There's a lot of things you need to learn now that are going to come in very handy when you are where you want to be, when you are married, when you are, doing what it is you want to be doing. The time you have now is what you need to prepare yourself for that. But we'd rather spend this time kind of pining away, like, oh God, why don't I have a girlfriend? Why is this not happening for me, etc. Like it sucks. I think it is difficult. I mean, being in it myself, it's a tough proposition, right? To say, put away your feelings for now, put away all these desires you have for the future. It's not happening now. Currently, you're in this season. Use it to prepare yourself and build value, right? But it's so hard when your heart is crying away at like, I don't see why I can't have this now. And I think it's one of those things again. Some lessons are just hard learned when it happens to you, like when you go through them yourself rather than hearing from other people. Now we have to do the best we can to kind of have a conversation like this and be like, look, okay, I'm not where I want to be. I don't have what I want now, but I can prepare. Like God has me here for a reason. Let me do the best with what I have. And man, that just proves uber difficult. It seems just ridiculously difficult to do what we're meant to be doing this time. It makes no logical sense to kind of just waste the time we have now crying for something that's going to... Look at it this way. I think that's the difficult part for me as well, right? Where I'm like, if I'm to zoom out, right? And I like towards the end of this where it says, the season will end. It always does. But the question isn't when this season ends. It's whether you realize God was shaping you while you were busy waiting for something else, right? It's like if we zoom out, right? This season we're in is going to end. Like the time is going to end like regardless. So God has decided when it's going to end, right? You decide what's going to happen in this time. Like wasting time kind of like pining away, being like, oh God, why don't I have this or whatever it is. It's not going to change the date that the season's going to end, right? Let's put a proverbial date. Let's say 5 years from now is when you actually, like, with the single season ends or whatever, and you meet your wife and everything is hunky-dory and, happily ever after. Let's say 5 years from now is when that happens, right? The tough part is we don't know, obviously, when that time is coming. Like, our fear is obviously this is never going to end, right? That's where I think the pining away comes from. But let's just zoom out logically. 5 years is when this thing's going to end. That date is not moving. It's not changing. You've got these 5 years. What are you going to do with them? Right? Are you going to spend them crying about it? If you spend them crying about it, it's not going to bring it closer. It's not going to change anything. It's just going to make this time that you spent just get wasted. Or you could be using it to prepare. And you're going to look back and be like, wow, I'm so glad I invested that time. I really am, because I don't have time now. And again, this goes back to kind of what we're speaking about listening to people who are kind of where we want to be, who've walked our path, right? You hear all these, particularly pastors, who are fathers and stuff. And I remember one of the pastors saying, the only time I get for myself is between 5 and at 6:15 when my son decides, it's time to wake up. And this is every day, right? It's like, that's the time to do his devotional, to plan stuff, etc., etc. After that, it's dad mode. And then obviously if you're at work or whatever it is, but like you don't have like your own time to kind of just do what you want or to build stuff. It's a lot more difficult to be like, hey, I'd like to actually learn like a new skill right now. Like let's say for example, like I love playing like piano and like learning how to like just music in general, right? It's like, okay, if I wanted to right now, I could actually decide, cool, this next year I'm gonna dedicate hours every day, or even just an hour or two every day to learn piano, like learn a guitar, like learn how to play guitar. I want to learn how to play that, right? I could choose to do that. When you're married and you got kids and stuff, you can't spare that. Like you'd be lucky, you're lucky if you could get like an hour on the weekend or whatever it is, right? It's a very different life, and we only kind of get this period that we're in to prepare for that. And also it serves as a good distraction, not the distractions we kind of like to numb ourselves with, right? But the distraction that is it's only a distraction in that you're occupied doing it, but the actual doing of it serves more of a purpose than just distraction. Like, being on TikTok or Instagram or whatever it is, right? Where it's like the only reason for that is distraction. You're entertaining yourself. You're gonna look back at the end of the day, and you not only have nothing to show for it, it's taken away your time, your precious time. This is something that actually serves a purpose of like, hey, I'm growing in here. I'm growing as a person. I'm using this time well, I'm connecting with God, and I'm planting. There's this lyric in this one secular song I listen to. It's called "See the harvest, see the seeds I planted," and it's like just a line as simple as that. It's like, look, you start to see the fruits of your labor, right? But it's like you can see the harvest, but you didn't see the seeds I planted, right? And now's the time to be planting those seeds. And then when the time comes, you've got a harvest to reap that actually will do wonders, not just for you, but for your family as well. And this isn't just from a monetary perspective, it's just from a character building perspective as well, right? Because God doesn't just put us in these things just because, he loves seeing us suffer, right? It's for our good. It's that character thing. We've spoken about this before. David, Joseph, Moses, all these people, dude, like, there was an anointing, but then there was a period of character building. And the sad part, I say it's sad, it's a good thing. It's a good thing that God is like, yeah, okay, I know better than you. I'm going to do what's good for you, even if you don't like it, right? But the frustrating part is you can't choose whether you want to go through that or not, right? Like, I look at David, I was just reading the Psalms and stuff. It's like, Lord, how long? Like, save me from my enemies, etc., etc. It's like, dude, like, he spent his life like running away, just trying to say his life. He spent his like 20s or whatever it was, running for his life. But it's like he couldn't get himself out of that. God had to get him out of that, right? And again, similar thing with Joseph, like being in prison, like he couldn't get himself out. Like, God literally forced him there. All he could do was choose to let the test shape him or let it destroy him. And I think that's the difficult part in all of this. But very, very interesting. I'd love to get your guys' thoughts in the comment section below. But make sure you hit subscribe to join the brotherhood. And until next time, see you boys.